Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Welcome into Record-ology Live. It has been way too long since we have done this, and so welcome back. And I'm so glad to do. It's been like a month. It's been like 3-4 weeks. It's been way too long. Now I've been getting over very slowly some cold, and it's still lingering. So there's a possibility to wipe my nose. I will try to be as discreet as possible. I may have to cough. And I will, again, mute the microphone and do my best. But welcome in. And if you're watching the replay, hopefully this will work as a standalone video. That's my goal. Some idea I've had, one of the ideas for a while, is to sort of make the live video more attractive to a replay or more like a standalone video. So the people that are here live can enjoy that in the chat and interact with each other. And, all of us together. And then people that are watching the replay can have some substantive content. So this will be like any other live that will chat, but I also have something to share with you. And if you saw the title or you saw the thumbnail, then you will probably know what I'm alluding at. So Old Radios, welcome in. I'm on Filmboy24's chat too. Thank you for making the leap over here. I appreciate it. And I'm not sure who I'm competing with right now. And I don't know who else is out there. I just thought it'd be good to get together. I miss you guys. It's been too long since we've got to hang out and talk the talk and all that good stuff. So what I have done is I have snagged 16 records from my collection. I took one from every section of my LPs. Now, this doesn't take into consideration my 78s, 45s, strange formats, tapes, CDs, etc. This is one record from each of my labeled vinyl sections, and you can see barely on frame right here, right there, one of the white plastic dividers, and that's how they're separated. And I have all of my records in crates, like record store style. So I like to, instead of have them on a shelf, I like to have them in a crate, and I like that, the ability to go crate digging anytime, anywhere. In fact, I've got a little sign here to make it look and feel like it's a little record shop, which I think is fun because I love being in a record shop. George, welcome in. Batting 1,000 with the record player from eBay. Wow, that's good. That's really good. Before we get into the records that I have, a stack of 16 records here, update on a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to let you guys know that we've got a good show coming. Hopefully later today, we'll see. It may have to get pushed to tomorrow, but hopefully today. It has been filmed. I haven't done any editing on it yet. So the plan is to get that edited and posted hopefully this evening. And it's a review of a new new turntable system. And for those of you that join the lives, I always like to give you a little bit extra than folks that can't make it in to sort of reward and incentivize folks. But this is a variation on the C6 design. It's by one, and it has new features. It has redesigned elements. And when they contacted me, because it is a sample that I'm reviewing, I said, we've reviewed that turntable so many times, and it's good. It's a good baseline. But where's the story? Where's the unique factor? I don't want to just review something over and over and over again. And they said, well, it's improved, and here it's the new version. So I did get done filming that today, and I was very, very surprised what I found when I opened that box. And I will say no more. If you get a chance to watch that video, I think you'll enjoy it. It should do good. I think that, it's your pretty standard record player review and demo. I shuffled up the sort of the construct of the video a little bit. De-emphasized a couple things I usually focus on so that I can make time for a couple of things I don't normally focus on that I did this time. And I will pat myself on the back because I did a good job of not making it an instructional video, which is, as I've said before, one of my biggest struggles. I always go into instruction mode. Here's how to do this. Here's how to do that, instead of just reviewing it. So I really focused on the review more than the setup guide because, there's an instruction manual for that. And we've done it a million times, right? Let's see what we got here. Dun, 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 dun. Old Radio says, I bought 3 portable Garrard record players, preamps, and all have the same bad transistor issue. I have not been in the mood as much as I used to be for older equipment for that exact reason, because I feel like, you have a chance of getting something with bad transistors or whatever needs to be recapped. And that's not, I don't enjoy it. Some people eat that up. Like I've got a good friend that's all he likes to do is buy stuff that's half broken and fix it up to working order. I'm not good at that. And I don't enjoy doing that. I like to review stuff and say it works or it doesn't, and kind of how it works. That's kind of more my style. Or to explore strange formats, find interesting recordings. That's a little bit more my style. But that's cool that you're working on it. That's really cool. Old Radio says, "Are you okay? You seem sick. You're not. You're excited. I'm excited. Hopefully the energy isn't depleted, but I am still on the tail end of fighting this cold I was saying at the beginning of the live. So if I have to sniffle or cough a little bit, you'll have to forgive me. But I'm going on 3 weeks with this thing. It just will not quite leave my lungs. So the doctors have had fun treating this one. So it's a bug. I heard it's been going around. So hopefully you guys are staying well. But I'm fine. I still got the voice leftover remnants, but I feel better than I sound, and probably better than I look too. But thank you for asking. George says better than better than the month I've been having old radio. Oh, that's terrible, George. I hope you're doing okay. Bought a portable Lenco record player on the 23rd and still has not shown up, says Old Radios. Yeah, you get kind of concerned. February 23rd. It's been a little wild. Interesting. Well, I hope it arrives. Now, I'm going to start going into the records. And as I do so, don't let up on the comments. I may miss one or two, but I want to jump in and still do the live comment section in addition to the records that we'll be looking at. Now, before we get into the records, I want to say to you that I still have my Grail diary, my Indiana Jones Grail diary. And I haven't had this much fun with something in a long, long, long time. This is a prop replica of the Grail diary from Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. Now, I did a video this week about this, and not many of you watched. And I deviated from the core subject matter, admittedly, that Record-ology is all about. And I do that every once in a while, and every single time the video does poorly. People they're coming here for record players, and if I don't deliver on that, then they don't engage as much. So that's to be expected. That being said, if you like Indiana Jones, and I'm assuming based on the success and popularity of that franchise that many of you may, I would recommend checking out our video about this, because I show you exactly what's in here, which is very cool. And it's all real. Well, it's a fictional account, but at the same time, there's a lot of real information in here. And these aren't just dummy pages. All of this stuff is something. So I would definitely recommend checking out our video on the Indiana Jones Grail diary. I just had this sitting there. So it reminded me of it. Okay. It says it's supposed to be there tomorrow, but don't you love it when the delivery says probably out for delivery, and then it's like, just kidding, it's just shipped. And then it's like, okay, it is out for delivery. No, now it'll be here in a week. If you don't get it in 3 weeks, let us know and we'll give you a refund. Not fun. George says, as long as I can stay out of the hospital, I'm going to be good. Oh, George, I'm sorry to hear that, but I fully relate. 2 surgeries in 3 months and a lot of doctor visits. I pray that you're doing well and will get better as soon as possible, but I feel that pain, literally. Jeremy, welcome in and thank you for moderating. Absolutely appreciate it. You'll notice in addition to the stylish wrench that Jeremy is sporting, he also has a very cool kind of minimalistic looking grayed out R logo. And that's because he is a member of the Record-ology membership program, which I think we're calling the Inner Circle. Anyway, if you want to be as cool as Jeremy, definitely check out. I think there's maybe a link in the description, but it's definitely links all over the channel where you can join. It's $1 a month. It's like 99 cents a month. And what do you get? I hate it when people ask that question and say the satisfaction of knowing, but it does help support the channel. And I've been trying to provide more content, members only content, shorts and things, sneak peeks, behind the scenes, thank yous and things like that. And yes, you do get exclusive use over different emojis as he's demonstrating in the record, the Victor logo, which I think I made that logo before I got this. I'm not 100% sure. And a couple other ones down there as well. So very much appreciated to anybody just spends time with us. But if you want to support the channel in that way, you're welcome to do so. I yelled at the seller because it's 2 states away, but I think possibly ran into a shady carrier. Oh, that's always a bummer. Usually his Lencos sell much more than what I've got. Interesting. Well, I hope it works out to be a good deal. Blue Paradoxial. Interesting name. Even when the subject matter for your videos differs from my interest, your positivity is always inspiring to me. Thank you for what you do. Oh, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. That's how I feel about some of the creators I watch too, because sometimes if I'm feeling down, it's just good to be around a positive person. I try to keep it positive here. And not that my life is some magical, always positive thing. I definitely have problems like many other people, but at the same time, I enjoy keeping it as positive as possible. George says staph infection. Oh man, those are brutal, but you'll get better. And yeah, Jeremy posted the link, which I very much appreciate. If anybody wants to share that out, I would appreciate it. Blue Paradoxial says, I'm working on thinning out my 45s collection today. I have more than I need. That's a good and healthy thing to do, I think, to thin out a collection. And my wife is always encouraging me to do that. At the same time, I keep doing the opposite for some reason. I don't know. There's a disconnect there. But that being said, I don't need anything by any means. Okay, let's talk about these records. So what I did is I went around to all of the crates and I picked one record at random without looking ahead of time to see that it was a good one or an interesting one. I just randomly picked one record from each section in my collection. And my record organization is like this. I have mostly sections by, I think I skipped a section now. You know what? I need to grab one more record. It's going to be 17. Bear with me for a second. Okay. I forgot a very major section. So it's going from 16 records up to 17 because I just looked over and I saw a section and I realized we missed it. Okay, so I picked one record from every section, and I thought we'd just talk about it. Why do I have it? What do I think of it? Would I recommend it? And a few sections I have are named by specific artists that I just happen to like enough to have a dedicated section to. So the first record comes from my musicals section. This differs from my soundtrack section. This is my musicals section. And my wife likes this because she is a musical theater nerd. So the record of choice for this is Camelot with Richard Burton, Robert Goulet, and Julie Andrews. This is probably the only time I would allow Robert Goulet into my... I'm not a huge Robert Goulet fan, although he's growing on me. The younger version of me wouldn't like him as much, but it's okay. It works here. It works here. Camelot, I've got 2 or 3 different versions of this. It's a great show. I saw this up at the Boulder Dinner Theater as a kid, a teenager, and it's just been good. It's always been good. And anytime you got Julie Andrews singing, it is a good thing. This is let's see, which version is this? So this is a stereo OS 2031 Columbia Masterworks pressing. And for classical music and for soundtracks and stage shows, oftentimes record labels would go above and beyond and give you a really good pressing. So this is no exception to that. This is a gray label Masterworks pressing. As you can see, look at that rainbow sheen down here. See how that's kind of rainbow colored? That tells me that some of that original polish remains. It's clean. It's in good condition. I picked it up either at a thrift store or I picked it up possibly in a free bin somewhere. And it's kind of sad because music like this, the person that just listens to rock or collects pop music only, they would come across a record like this and they would say, it's junk, and they would toss it. But to you and me, maybe we wouldn't think that. And I am glad in a way for that dynamic because it paves the way for records like this to be had at an affordable price. So this is a stereo 360-degree sound, and it sounds as good as you would think. It sounds great. So that's the first record up for consideration today. And we're going to go on here in a second. I'm going to try and keep up on comments in between here. Yeah, exactly, Blue. That's the same thing with me, too. Worst part is, says George, I was to have something aired on an online radio station around the time it's staffed. Oh, it's terrible. Second Chance Junkyard, welcome in. What Willie thinks, that's a great name, says, play free bin. I love a good free bin of records. I'm back in Denver. They had the Second and Charles stores that had that. They don't have that here in Florida, unfortunately. Jeremy says 16 watching, only 4 likes. Now it's up to 8. But yeah, if you're watching it, wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up. It would help us. Old Radio says I had to hook up the line out for one of those Gerard turntables. Took it up to a separate amp. Now it works, but not very portable. Yeah, interesting. Okay, next record is from my Western section, not country. Western, because I like more older. Thumbs down on this. What the heck? Come on. I like older country music, and we have both kinds, country and Western. I do have some more modern stuff, but this is classic. This is Bob Wills. Now, if you are into Western music and you dig a little deeper, you will know that Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys are fundamental to the genre of Western swing and kind of that jumping vibe that inspired people like Patsy Cline. His famous song, San Antonio Rose, is on there. He was kind of famous for whooping and hollering while he sang and employing some jazz instrumentation into Western music, which is really, really cool. And I love this. I honestly picked this up. It was a free bin find. I honestly picked this up before I went down the Patsy Cline rabbit hole, purely because of the cover art. It looks great. It's a beautiful, beautiful cover. This is a Harmony Records LP. It's an imprint of Columbia. This is HL7036. So this is probably a mono pressing. Well, that would make sense because this music predates stereo. On the back, we've got a lot of advertising material. From what I remember, this is pretty scratched. Oops, I forgot to put the slip case on this other record. Did I? No, that's from this. Okay, I'm getting confused, which is par for the course with me. So yeah, this record is an early LP, and it is a bit scratched. It's not too bad. Actually, it's not really that bad a condition. I remember it being a little scratchy. Interesting label. You can see that it says Columbia right at the bottom. And Western Swing. It's just good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. It's fun. It's upbeat. It's positive. And I like it. So I got it. Anyway, that's straight out of the... I like doing this every once in a while because oftentimes I find myself going for the same records over and over when I'm demonstrating them or showing them to you guys. Because I'm a creature of habit. If I like something, I'll like it to death. I'll just keep, listening to it over and over and over and over again. So sometimes I'll come across stuff in my own collection and be like, whoa, I own this? I didn't even know I own this. Do you guys ever do that? Yeah. Aha. Exactly. That's the Bob Wills sound. Exactly. What did you miss? Second chance. So we just started a little bit ago, 17 minutes in right now. So what we did is I grabbed 16 records, now 17, because I found another section. One record from every section of my record collection, LPs. And we're just going through one of those records. So one from every section, talking about why I have it, all that stuff. Bob Wills is the king, absolutely. Charlie Crockett. Rachel, welcome in. Thank you for the thumbs up and the stars. Old radios. Yeah, I'm glad you guys know. That's so cool. I'm more of an asleep at the wheel kind of guy when it comes to Texas swing. Yeah, absolutely. Rock Vinyl Channel, welcome in. What Willie thinks. Almost like Mickey Mouse. Yeah, fair enough. Thank you guys so much for being there. All right, next record is from my Hawaiian section. I actually have a Hawaiian section, which has some very interesting labels and things. It seems like the Hawaiian music is often kind of, how do you say, like more independent labels and more kind of obscure releases. So this is Hawaii's Sunset Melodies. This is the fodder of junk bins, free bins, dollar record bins, and thrift stores. And if you want to obtain Hawaiian music on vinyl, I don't think it would be that hard for you to do so. So I've sort of started getting a little bit of a collection. It's not huge. I don't want to bulk up just to bulk up, but I do have, a few Hawaiian records. This is one of them. What a gorgeous, evocative image on the front there. Absolutely beautiful. This is, I don't even know what label this is. Recorded, listen to this. This is cool. This is like a local one. Recorded by the Waikiki Records Company, produced by Tommy Kern, stereo 332. Look at the back of this. This is a local pressing, I believe. Sunset is a time of magic in Hawaii. And it's got a list of singers there. I recognize this name, Ed Kenny. Ed Kenny, I think it is. I've enjoyed Hawaiian music for a long time. I've been there, thankfully. I've been very blessed to be able to travel. So it wasn't too big of a surprise that I would, pick up some vinyl records. Check out the label. Waikiki Records. Is that not the coolest thing ever? Recorded in Hawaii. 33 RPM. This is so cool. You're not going to be able to tell on the webcam, but in the dead wax, the runout groove is stamped Waikiki Records. That is really cool. You would think it would be like physically pressed by somebody else, even if it's on a local label, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So, Hawaii Sunset Melodies. This kind of stuff is exactly what I envisioned Record-ology to be when I started the channel. It was to review records and just talk about them and enjoy them for the art, for the pressing, for the history, and talk about the music on there and just kind of savor the record. And one of the problems of going kind of, I don't want to say prime time, but of gaining widespread popularity doing a show like that is everybody has very specific music tastes. And oftentimes we don't want to listen to somebody else talk about something that we ourselves aren't interested in. So if you have no interest in a certain kind of music that I do, you know what I mean? Because you can kind of see how that would end up being that way. So that's why I thought too that today would be a good way to pick something from every genre. And I have a little bit of everything. Sorry, I keep wiping my nose. And hopefully something in here will pique your interest. Next up is from my rock and roll collection. He has rock and roll? No way. He never does. And it's not Beatles. Yeah, Jeremy's promoting the adapter. If you guys want the official, do I have one nearby? I took it in the other room for that short the other day. If you want your official custom 3D printed Record-ology 45 adapter, click on that link. I would really appreciate it. Rock and roll, Status Quo. Check that out. This is the Hello album. I know it's only rock and roll, but still rock and roll to me. So there you go. Yeah, this is an awesome UK band. Didn't gain widespread popularity in the States, but has a huge following globally. That being said, this is an A&M US release of their Hello album. This is 70s, I believe. And I love these guys. I was introduced to this band from a friend of mine in the UK. And he's like, you just have to check this out. This isn't the most exciting label variant I've seen of theirs, but this is an A&M release. Look at those. Look at the modulation on that. Isn't that interesting looking? Looks like there's some songs with some quiet, long intros. But yeah, this is an A&M US pressing. Some of the ones on the local label, which I forget what it is off the top of my head, are really cool looking. So I've got a handful of Status Quo records. And this is one that I picked up maybe a year or 2 years ago. I've got some CDs of theirs as well. If you guys have never heard them before, check it out. It's really, really good stuff. Next comes a record from, I think this is from, what section is this? I'm going to say this is my big band section. Dedicated big band section. I love big band music. John, by the way, welcome in, John. Yes, I can talk. Hi, I just got back from a record riot in Cherry Hill, New Jersey as my first haul. Or I will list my haul later. Awesome. Can't wait to see it. Can you tell how the song is by how the pressing looks? You can, or you said you can tell. Yes, you can. Absolutely. You can see the modulation and see the louder and quieter portions. Okay, from what I believe to be my big band section is this. And I was debating on whether or not this is for my miscellaneous section or for my big band section. This is 60 years of music America loves best. And as you can tell, we're almost exclusively big band there. So we've got Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, got some Sinatra, Harry Belafonte, and things like that. This is cool. Volume 3 of Popular Music. Really cool. Now look at this sticker on the front. This looks like an original hype sticker, which is held on by this non-original price tag. Interesting stuff. That's an interesting compilation there. This is LOP 1509. And I'll be able to date it by looking at, 60 years will tell you, but looking at the label. RCA's labels were kind of identifiable by decade. Here is the inside sleeve. I keep these if they're interesting and historic. So when I'm cleaning records, I'm processing or at my intake on records. I have a bunch over here, the same ones that I've shown you a few times. Still haven't been cleaned and sorted yet. When I do that, I throw away the paper sleeve unless it is something like this that's historic, has something interesting, it just looks cool. And when I do that, I don't put the record in here anymore, but I keep it tucked in there. So this is a neat one as well. And let's look at the actual disc. Okay, so this is going to be a 60s. I could tell you just by looking at this. Possibly late 50s. I think this is 60s. So we have the classic black and silver RCA Victor label. A gorgeous pressing, probably 100 that's about 135, maybe 140, somewhere between 130 and 140 grams. RCA Victor black label pressings are just the standard. To me, there's records that are better, there are records that are worse, and these are just perfectly fine. These are 100% of what a vinyl record should be. So I think it's kind of like the gold standard to me of what a record is. So that is that one. Again, I love big band music. I love swing music, especially Glenn Miller. So I picked that up along the way. Again, a lot of the music I listen to, other people would consider a junk record. So that works really well for me in terms of being able to score some freebies. One time I went to Second and Charles, and they just decided to dump their entire classical vinyl collection into their free bin. And I was like, okay, I don't have hardly any at that point, so I picked it all up. I went home with like 30 records for free. And their quality pressings, it's indiscriminate. They look at it as a business and say, we're not going to make money on classical records, which they're probably right. And they say, okay, we're going to just put it in the free bin because it's just eating up shelf space. And then somebody like me comes along, perhaps you, and says, hey, this is great music. This is a good opportunity for some music, great music to work by. If you work from home like I do, it's a great opportunity to bulk up on some music. Okay, so we're going to call that the big band section. That's what I believe that came from. And then we're going to go on to my miscellaneous. I know this one is miscellaneous. The next one. Hey, Tarek, welcome in. Status Quo does a great version of John Fogerty's Rockin' Around the World. Absolutely. That was Fogerty? I didn't know that, actually. Rockin' All Over the World. Yeah. Down, Down. Yeah, that's a great song. There's some great music. Absolutely. All right, next is the miscellaneous section. This one I've featured briefly on the channel in the past. This is Pardon My Blooper. These are bloopers. Let's see if I can actually get it on camera. These are bloopers, which is cool. I've seen these pop up occasionally. At first, I thought it was kind of super rare because I'd never seen it before. It's a knockout, by the way. If you have any records with a hole in it like that, that means that it was unsold and reported back to the publisher as unsold merchandise. They do that with CDs as well. And so they drill a hole through it to indicate that the publisher, the artist, never received royalties on that pressing or whatever that is. Now, for you and me buying a record decades later, it doesn't matter. Because I doubt that those funds would have, it's not like this isn't sold new anymore, obviously. So you're not going to, that money isn't going to go to anybody in the future. You know what I mean? It's not going to, they're not going to credit anything from it. So Kermit Schaefer released a bunch of these records. There's a picture of him on the back. This is PMB 6. Yes. High fidelity recording. And Kermit collected a bunch of these bloopers. Now, there's a little asterisk next to that. And the reason why there's an asterisk next to that is because old Kermit was savvy. And he thought some of these recordings aren't that good of these bloopers, or maybe we can kind of enhance it. And so he recreated a lot of them. So a lot of the bloopers are recreated, so they're acted out. It's kind of like reality TV. It's like reality radio. It is on the Jubilee label. Look at that gorgeous label. I love that thing. And it looks like one continuous track from the inside to the outside. Long play 33. Very sharp edges. This disc it's very sharp. Almost makes me wonder. No, it's vinyl. I was thinking it might be styrene, but it's vinyl. I have a few of these. There's like multiples in the collection. I think I have 3 of these. This is volume 6, so there's at least 6 in the collection, and they're fun to share. Not something I would just like listen to out of the blue, probably. At least not very frequently, but it makes for good content for the show. A lot of times I get stuff and I'm like, this would be good for the show. Maybe not necessarily something I would personally want necessarily, but I also try not to just keep a bunch of stuff laying around that I don't need or want. Inspecting Gadget says Record-ology's record rack. Absolutely. We're sampling the wares. We are going through the collection. How's your big band collection? It's good. It's probably a little over. It's about a crate and a quarter. So 1 crate and a little bit more of another one. And if you missed it, we just reviewed the record from my big band section, and it's the 60 Years of Music America Loves Best, sort of a compilation record. Next up is from my soundtrack collection. I love movie soundtracks, and I have always. And not just soundtracks that are compilations of popular music, but I like soundtracks of scores. I like score music, and I have for years and years. I remember there was this golden era on in the 90s where you could go to a store that had good vinyl, or good CD releases and good selection, or like the best of the best was Virgin Music. There was one downtown Denver. Anyway, like late 90s, you could buy the soundtrack to a movie and the score. There would be a separate CD release for each. And I remember I used to always buy the score because that's what I really wanted. And sometimes the clerk would warn me, like, now, this isn't the songs, this is the score. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. Anyway, this is the same thing. This is a score. George says, yeah, the first song on Fogerty, 75 Self-Doubt. Really? Did Fogerty cover Status Quo? Because wasn't Status Quo's rocking all over the world from 68? I'm not sure about that. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe I had it wrong. Interesting. Jeremy says, and thank you, Jeremy. You're a good hype man. Says Record-ology's on Instagram. It's true. I post over there. Instagram and TikTok. Yeah. That's why you asked, because of that record. Yeah. It's good. I like all the main big bands. I have something from all the main ones, and then I have some obscure stuff. On CD, I've got some local things from Denver, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, soundtracks. I love this record so very, very much. This is The Mandalorian Season 2 picture disc. And I love picture discs, and I listen to them, and they sound good. And what you hear about them sounding like crap is wrong. They sound fine. There's a little more surface noise. That's it, because it's a little bit more harsh material, because it's essentially a clear disc with a shallower groove on a plastic base. That being said, these Disney picture discs, and the modern ones, you can always tell the modern ones because they have the black rim around the outside edge, are fantastic. And The Mandalorian is great. The music is by Ludwig Göransson, I think is how you pronounce it. And his music it's interesting because you would think John Williams for Star Wars, but it's not. There's a flip side. That is Ahsoka on the back there, who would go on to have her own series on Disney Plus, and it's a great show. One of my favorite Star Wars shows on Disney Plus is the Ahsoka series, live action. Very, very cool. Even my wife liked it, and she is like a dip your toe in the water of Star Wars fandom. So she could. There was one time I got her to sit down and watch a Mandalorian show. Was the one where there was the singing, talking frogs, and she got up immediately and left. So it took some doing to get her talked into checking out another show. And this one we just really, really enjoyed. The music is very techno, classical. There's the back of the slipcover. These picture disc slipcovers I initially used to dislike because it's like a cardboard thing, but they're lined. They're fully lined. Well, one side's paper, but the side that has the label is fully lined with this like poly material. So I think it's a good, and this is what it looks like in the slipcase. I think it's a good pack. I think it's a good protection for it. My first picture disc was that Cinderella one, and I freaked out that the thing was going to scratch it up, so I put it in a higher end sleeve and threw away the cardboard jacket, and I kind of regret doing that. Status Quo's was maybe 76, 77. Oh, okay, interesting. Oh, dude, yeah, Willie, you got to check that. What Willie thinks, you got to check that out. Mimers, welcome in. Rachel says, I have a few movie soundtrack albums. Wizard of Oz, a classic. I've got the deluxe 2-disc CD set of Wizard of Oz, and I love that thing so much. I love Wizard of Oz. I also have Wizard of Oz on vinyl in the soundtrack section. That was my first new vinyl record I ever bought. E.T. Okay, the music. Oh, it's a picture disc, though. So I have trauma from seeing E.T. as a kid. I don't know why, but it thoroughly, literally messed me up. I had to be taken out of the theater as a kid. I remember being carried out over my I think it was over my dad's shoulder, and I remember seeing that thing. Oh, it was white and dead. And, oh gosh, I know some people love it, but for me, not so much. The music is wonderful, but the picture disc is something that would be hard for me to deal with. John says John Fogerty wrote "Rockin' All Over the World" appears on his first solo album. Okay, so that's interesting. Thank you for the education. All right, next up, this is the section I forgot. This is the one I added. So it's really, you get a bonus record. If you're watching this, you're actually seeing 17. For the price of 16, you're seeing 17. This is from the Christmas collection. This is John Denver and the Muppets. This is a perennial classic. Absolutely. Check that out. All of our friends on the back there. And it's a gatefold. Is that not the coolest thing ever? I love Christmas. I love vinyl. I love the Muppets. This is a great combination of all of that. Really, really, really love this. Apparently, from what I understand, if I remember right, and I've got a poster. I think this came with a poster too. I don't know if hope I still have it. The story goes something like this, that the PBS special that this was based on is missing, or the source material was missing, and therefore, there's no remaining copies of that, and just the music remains. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Okay, this is 70s, very 70s. I'm glad we're showing this next, because that's the 70s version of the kind of baseline label, RCA in the 70s from the previous one. It's now a lot thinner. I don't know if this is a Dynagroove one. It doesn't seem quite that thin. That's probably 125 grams, maybe even 120 grams. So it is thinner. Still, any Victor pressing is going to be okay. I mean, they don't make bad records. Didn't make bad records. But anyway, that is the Muppet Christmas with John Denver, or I should say John Denver and the Muppets. Okay, I forgot to put the outside sleeve on the Mandalorian record. Thank you guys for being there, by the way. I really appreciate it. We're 38 minutes in. 38 minutes and plenty of records to go. Have a nice Sunday evening. Absolutely. George says second actually, John Fogerty's post-CCR album was Blue Ridge Rangers, which is a Fogerty solo album released under a group name. Doing all the CCR education. All right, next up is, this probably came from my kids section. I have a children's kids record section. This should actually, where's the sleeve for this? This one doesn't have a sleeve. This one should have been in the soundtracks because it's A Boy Named Charlie Brown. I love the screen mirroring on here, and I have it off now so I can actually read things that I hold up to myself on camera. So this will be on the Fantasy Records label. These are always fun. This is just a black vinyl record. This is thick. This is 180 gram pressing. Check that out. Full radial stereo. I love the marketing speak. Yeah, that's a good thick pressing. Vince Guaraldi Trio. Love Charlie Brown music. It's some of the best music. Very identifiable jazz music. Still in the paper sleeve. And still, I never process. I'm going to stick this with my intake records because it needs to get probably cleaned and sleeved and all that stuff. Next up, we have classical music. I have a dedicated classical section. So this could be from that, what I was just talking about. This could be from that hoard of records that I got from the Freeman. All right, we have I'm going to butcher this name. Saijay Ozawa and the Chicago Symphony, Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 5, A Night on Bear Mountain. Not to be confused, A Night on Baldpate Mountain, I believe. This is a Red Seal RCA, 70s. You can tell instantly by that logo up there. And I don't even know if I've listened to this. Do you know that if you see a record that has this sort of folded over label, I believe that's called a tip-on sleeve, which is weird because I used to think a tip-on sleeve was when the inner sleeve had a little cutout right here so you could grab the record out more easily and put it in more easily. This is a pretty thin Red Seal, 70s era. This is probably 120 grams, flexible. And as you can see, it just says Red Seal, RCA. It's 70s variant. Red has indicated classical for RCA going all the way back to the 50s when the 45s were color-coded by genre. Separate story for a separate day. We've covered it before. But the remnant seemed to be yellow for kids' records. If you ever wonder why so many kids' records are yellow. And red for classical. And Red Seal was their premium audiophile line. But this label is sort of a letdown because it doesn't take advantage of some of the, that's a very minimalistic design. If you see the 60s era or even 50s era Red Seals, you'll see what I mean. It's like a night and day thing. And if you really find a good one, you'll find a Red Seal shaded dog. I need to do another show on the shaded dog show. Shaded dog discs, which were the best of the best. And again, Red Seal, not just because it's classical, but it's the premium audiophile format for what they perceive to be their audiophile customers that would want to listen to classical music. Oh, it is Dynagroove. Look at that. Dynagroove up there. Okay. Next up, this is our first named section. So this record comes from my Peggy Lee collection. Every year after Christmas, I always do a vinyl New Year's resolution, which is not a serious, I'm going to lose weight kind of New Year's resolution. It's something fun to focus on in the new year. And a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to start putting together a Peggy Lee collection. Thankfully, I have a friend back in Colorado that gave me all of the Peggy Lee records that I have. I think, I bought a couple of these, but most of them were given to me over the period of a couple of years, to the point now where I've got, I think, more Peggy Lee than Patsy Cline. And that was my first sort of main named section. But this is That All There Is by Miss Peggy Lee. And you always hear Miss Peggy Lee because that's how she wanted to be introduced. And this song, title song of this record, is worth the price of admission, which apparently at one point was $5. That's a great song. It's a very good song. So if you've never heard any Peggy Lee or you haven't heard Is That All There Is, check it out. This is Capitol on this funky green label. I don't know the story behind this. If anybody does, let me know why it's kind of lime green. But these Capitol pressings of hers are all good. And there you go. So Peggy Lee, Is That All There Is? It's a great story song. It really, really is. We get caught up on comments here. And then we will resume. We have a few more to go. Also, I'd love to know from you guys, what sections do you guys have? Like, what collections do you guys have? ACT 8113. By the way, did you enjoy the rabbit hole that came with the note? Yeah, thank you for the education there. That was it, and that CD is very interesting. I'd never heard of those guys, but very interesting. It's a very nice gift. I appreciate it. George says, I've always wondered how Linus and Lucy ended up being considered a Christmas song when it's in every Peanut show. That's true, but it is sort of synonymous with Christmas now. Was it? It must have been included in the Christmas album and the Christmas special, and therefore it's since been associated. Okay, next up, speaking of Patsy Cline, this is a very special record. This is unique. This is Sentimentally Yours from 1963 or 2. I'm trying to think, this came out in I think this is like November of 62. So this is the last of the 3 LPs released during her lifetime. Now, she had recorded a ton of music that would take decades to get fully released. The last recording to make its first appearance on an LP, if that makes sense, was I think in like 1980 or 81 or 82, something like that. The bulk of her music was released in 3 albums after she passed away. But this was the last of the 3 during her lifetime. And this is an original Decca pressing in fantastic condition. Such fantastic condition. It looks like a reproduction, but it's not. You will see no barcode there. And then the hype over here is her debut 57 album and her showcase album with the original artwork there. This does have hype on the front. So you heard of hype stickers, and this is just hype where it's printed on there. Sorry, it's reversed, so it's hard for me to. It's like a mirror image of myself, so it's hard for me to see what I'm pointing at. Oh, this is a different version than I thought it was. So I have a version of this album that is a Pink Label radio exclusive. This is not it. I apologize. I thought this was that version. Gosh, what is this doing in that old paper sleeve? I need to immediately take this and put this in the... I need to put this in a good sleeve. What am I doing with this in there? This needs to be clean, too. How did this escape my intake process? So this is on a Decca Rainbow label. When you see how it says long play 33 at the top, for the Decca releases, it would say stereophonic if it was stereo. If it was mono, it would say long play 33. So this is a mono version, and that label is sort of the 1960 and on label that they used. That being said, this record's in good condition, and the jacket is impeccable. But it only has an outer sleeve. Why did I not put this in the intake process? This is also going into the pile of records that need to be cleaned and properly sleeved. I'm ashamed of myself. But yeah, the one that with the pink label, if you ever see a Decca record with a pink label, it means it was a record promo or a radio promo. So usually for DJ use. And you can pick them up. If you look online on eBay, they're not necessarily more expensive than a regular version. Okay. Old Radio says, I got the Garage 50 working with a separate amp. Unplugged the amp. That's really good. I'm glad you got it working. I reviewed one of those. I don't know if you remember that show. I think it was a beast. It had no, I thought it had come out of a console, but somebody's like, no, that doesn't mean it was out of a console. But it didn't have anything. It was like it needed a cabinet. Somebody told me that some people just ordered them that way because they wanted to put it in their own wooden cabinet or something. Red Seal records go back to 78s. They do. Yeah, that's true. If I said otherwise, you're right. Because they do. I have some Red Seal records on 78. Some 12-inch Red Seal 78s. And then in the 45s continued that, I guess, at that point. One-sided 78s. I got a couple of those. I thinned out. I downsized my 78 collection when we moved. The stuff that I was never going to listen to. The person that bought the phonograph, my wind-up phonograph, I haven't made a big deal about the fact I don't have that anymore, but I don't have it. I also included those records, all the ones I would not listen to. And I kept a couple of historic pieces, like the one-sided records. They're just amazing. One thing I noticed is that Garage turntable skips a lot. That's interesting. George says, I have a shaded Nipper red Seal Rites of Spring 58 pressing. That's awesome. Wow, Jeremy, thank you so much. William Cohn was gifted a membership into the Record-ology Inner Circle by Jeremy, our moderator. Jeremy, thank you so much for doing that. That's a huge blessing. And welcome, William, into the Inner Circle. You are now on the Inner Circle of Record-ology. Get some exclusive stuff, supporting the channel, and it's a huge blessing. Looks like mid-rolls are hitting. I apologize for the mid-rolls. I appreciate you suffering through them. I talk slow enough and long enough that you won't miss anything. Guaranteed. Thanks again, Jeremy. That's a huge blessing. And thank you, William. Welcome in. Is that all? Is that all there is to a fire? Yeah, that's the song from Peggy Lee. Is that all there is? Yeah, that's a great song. Isn't that a great song? Yeah. George says 71 to 72, Capitol changed label designs from the original rainbow label to that lime green, and for a brief time, red labels that are called Target logo. Interesting. Old Radio says one of the turntables I bought was a Sylvania Exponent. Very nice portable from 66. Had a bad transistor. Interesting. Olive Garden mid-roll. Support your local Olive Garden. Love Olive Garden. I do. Although I don't pick the ads. The ad is a whole... Boy, I could talk to you about how the ads work on YouTube. It's an interesting thing. I don't control it. And also, everybody gets different ads. People don't realize that. They're like, oh, he's advertising, Olive Garden. Well, it turns out that you may be getting Olive Garden, and the next guy may be getting something else. Somebody else may be getting makeup ads, or somebody. It's all dependent on you, what your demographic is, which is interesting, but that's the way it works. So, William, welcome in to the inner circle. Appreciate it. And Jeremy, thank you for gifting that membership. Very kind. Old Radio says, I'm going to buy the ceramic cart version of Sylvania. 3 are Pickering. Yeah, those Pickerings are getting a little old at this point. I like Olive Garden, I guess. It's good. Okay, next record comes from my, this is a section called Pop Vocal. So this is like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, like American standards, pop vocal section. This artist is close to having her own section as well. This is Kay Starr, the jazz singer. Kay Starr was my gateway to Patsy Cline. And here's how I found out about Kay Starr. It was through Glenn Miller. Being a huge Glenn Miller fan, I discovered that for a period of a couple of weeks, Marion Hutton had to be away from the band. I don't know if she was sick. I forget the story. And while Marion Hutton, the normal girl singer for the Glenn Miller Orchestra, was away, they hired from Nashville, I think, Kay Starr to come up. And even though she was in Nashville, she wasn't a country singer. She was a jazz singer. And this is a very apropos cover because of that. And she filled in. And she even recorded, just because they happened to have a couple recording dates on the books. She recorded 2 songs. What are they called? Oh, shoot. I can't think of what they're called, but they're great songs. So I started listening to more Kay Starr music, and she had some, hits in the 50s of her own. I can't think of those either. But they're great songs. And I found out that she was a huge fan Patsy Cline was a huge fan of Kay Starr. And it got me thinking, Patsy Cline, I think I have a record of hers. I had a copy of Showcase that I picked up in a free bin somewhere. And I've challenged you guys to help me find the video that I did the unboxing. And nobody's been able to find it, including myself. I would love to find that first video where I discover that and explain why I picked it up. But I was like, I vaguely know Patsy Cline, so I guess I'll pick up this record. And it sat untouched for a good year at least until the trail led from Kay Starr. It's fun when you can do this in your own house and you're just discovering things that you already have to Patsy Cline. The rest is history. But I still love the music of Kay Starr as well. So this is one of her Capitol releases. If you have a Kay Starr record that's on Capitol, consider yourself lucky, because even though she's associated with Capitol, like it seems like 80 to 90% of the records that are floating around nowadays of Kay Starr's are on things like Cornet or weird kind of aftermarket labels. And this is one of the OG Capitols. And this is a beautiful Capitol Rainbow label. I love that label. Not a perfect condition record by any means, but good enough to listen to any day of the week. Stereo. Those labels look great rotating on the turntable for sure. Full dimensional stereo. I love the marketing talk that goes along with records. It's always been one of my favorite aspects of record collecting is the marketing speak and how they advertise their brand of high fidelity. It's just really entertaining to me. So the surest sign of finest sound, Capitol, a full dimensional stereo record. It was sort of a field day in those days for marketing terms. I feel like these days you'd have a lot more lawyers involved making sure that you could back up your claims. And maybe they did then too. But anyway, Kay Starr, jazz singer. This is Capitol ST 1438 if you want to pick it up for your collection. Old Rio says the Pickering on the Exponent 440 Does work because I plug in a separate amp into the Gerard changer and discover that Gerard runs too slowly and the auto changer does not work. Yeah, you're definitely more patient than me. Old Radios goes on to say, I know K-Star from constantly hearing Everybody's Waiting for the Man with the Bag. Yeah, that's a good Christmas song too. Everybody's waiting for the man with the bag. Yes, absolutely. Rock and Roll Waltz. Yeah, that was one of her big songs, a Rock and Roll Waltz. Okay, this is definitely from my big band collection. So what was that record from? So you got a double dose of the big band section because we reviewed that one that I thought was the cannot talk. I'm running on low energy, I guess. The one that we thought was miscellaneous turns out to be probably big band, or the one I thought was big band turns out to probably be miscellaneous, because this is definitely big band. Big band hits of the 30s and 40s. It's a Project 3, so you know it's going to be a good sounding record. I love the army coloring of this. This is Enoch Light in the Light Brigade, and as usual, Enoch Light in the Light Brigade is on a Project 3 record. This one is blue. Look at that. That was very cool. Quality pressing, pretty thin, 120 gram pressing. This is Project 3 PR 5056, manufactured by Project 3 Records, a division of Siegel Enterprises Corporation. It's a compilation of big band music. And again, I love big band music. So, are you hep to the jive? So that is a good one. Next up is another record from one of my few named sections. One that I need to add to because it's kind of pitiful in its size and scope. But the next up is Elvis. And I love Elvis music. I need to collect more of the soundtrack albums. Those are my favorite. But this is not a soundtrack album. This is some of his early stuff. This is a compilation. Elvis, the Sun Sessions. This has a textbook ring wear happening here. So you can see this wear is just from the record being the thicker piece inside there. And when you put it in and out of the crate or on and off the shelf, it eventually rubs the wear ring in, as you see there. So interesting artwork on the front. Instantly you can tell it is 70s. On the back, sort of a budget release, it looks like to me. And this is going to probably be, I'm going to guess, an orange 70s RCA label. Oh, I'm wrong. This is the gold 70s RCA label, Victor. And when they put Victor on there, it was indicative of it being the higher quality pressing or the higher quality issue. APM 1-1675-A. That's the catalog number if you want to pick it up. So this one I actually inherited from my dad. This says 1976 down there. So yeah, this is from my dad's collection. I'm thankful to still have my dad's records, including his 45s from when he was a DJ. And I love reading little cue marks and notes on there as well. Another named section. Is this the last one? No, we got a couple more to go. Another named section is Glenn Miller. And this is original recordings by Glenn Miller and his orchestra. Pardon me while I cough. Not because of the record by any means. I love Glenn Miller. This is a Camden issue. So see how it says Camden up there? That was RCA's budget label. And Camden refers to Camden, New Jersey, which is where RCA was pressing their records. But Camden is really cool because you get the same quality as a black label RCA Victor, but it costs a lot less new. Now, in used records, it doesn't really make any difference because they're all going to be the same pretty much. When you look at a black label Glenn Miller record versus a Camden, probably won't cost you any different. But when they were new, Camdens were a lot cheaper. And the way they did that was and this is brilliant. I think this is so genius. Most companies, you would think, oh, they do it by, making a cheaper record, a thinner record or whatever, or using, lower grade recordings. RCA didn't do that. They used the same high quality recordings, the same record quality, the same pressing, everything, except they negotiated with the artists for lower royalties. So the artist took a cut with their music. Typically, it's not brand new music. You wouldn't have like a first run release on Camden, but if it was like a reissue or a compilation like this, it would be perfect for that, because the artist may say, okay, I'll take a lower percentage. And because of that savings, RCA was able to offer it for a lower price, but still make the same quality. So Camden records are cool because of that. I don't know why I keep drifting off this way, but yeah, this is a gorgeous label. It's got the Pickwick label up there as well. So there was some sort of crossbreeding. Maybe it was marketed as a through Pickwick. Pickwick is sort of like an Acme corporation, from what I understand. It says Pickwick by arrangement with RCA Records. So I'm guessing that Pickwick brokered the deal and RCA agreed to do it as a Camden release. That being said, this is a very interesting label. Most Camden labels say Camden on them because they're that's the label, Camden. And this one says Pickwick. At the bottom, it says Camden. Very interesting. Cool label. 130 grams, approximately. Very sharp edges. This is a good sounding record from what I understand. The trick with Glenn Miller music and big band music, and not just that, but a lot of music from this that were released in the 60s. This is going to be probably a 60s issue. 64. Is that it was very trendy to release old music, like old Glenn Miller music, with enhanced stereo or electronically reprocessed stereo. And the way they did that was they offset, if it was mono, they would duplicate it into two channels, and they would offset the two channels so they were slightly out of sync. They would put a high pass filter on one channel, a low pass filter on the other channel. So their phase shifted, they were offset, and they also would add a touch of reverb, which is the worst part. And so they would make the recordings have a fake stereo effect, which is really not stereo per se. Sometimes it sounds kind of interesting. I don't hate it. A lot of like purists, like Glenn Miller record collectors, and there's a lot of very passionate Glenn Miller collectors, won't touch it with a 10-foot pole because to them it's sacrilegious. It's like colorization of old films to them. So when you're looking at these 60s Glenn Miller releases, you have to be cognizant of that if that matters to you, because that happens. Now, this one is affected by that. Sometimes they'll market it. They'll have reprocessed stereo or something like it's a good thing, because the idea was for it to be a good thing. And it was because stereo was the cat's meow in the 60s. It was like it was the marketing term. It was what 4K is now. Like, oh, it's 4K, or, 10 years ago, high definition. And, stereo was the thing. Stereo. That's why there's all that stereophonic and, Red Seal stereo and living stereo was the buzzword. So they wanted to make even the old stuff, because obviously Glenn Miller recordings, original ones, were mono. They wanted to be able to market them as stereo products. So oftentimes there'd be a hype advertising that fact, but sometimes not. So this one up here says stereo effect reprocessed from monophonic. So they didn't make a big deal out of it, but they still ran the process. So sometimes you'll be getting a record. My keyboard fell down. When I do these lives, I put my wireless keyboard off to the side so that my mic can be more prominent. Got the snowball mic here. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. A big snowball microphone there. But anyway, that's that. We got one more record. And before that, 4K AI. Oh, AI is the new one, right? AI this, AI that. A lot of you don't know this, but I'm actually AI. I haven't been a real person for, a number of years. Just kidding. Like me some Enoch Light. Yeah, exactly. Greg, welcome in, my friend. So glad you were there. Mrs. Record-ology is doing wonderfully, and so am I. Thank you so very much. Janet, welcome in. Thank you for that information about the Camden label. I did not know that, and just assumed that the production quality was not as high. That was my assumption, too, at first. Keep that in mind during future record shopping. Absolutely. You see Camden? Go for it. Because the artist took the hit, not the consumer. Okay, so the last record that I'm going to showcase here today, wow, this timed out pretty good, an hour and 4 minutes, is a newer record to me, and that is the Beatles' Past Masters. And the Past Masters is kind of hard to wrap your brain around, but let me see if I can articulate it well. So these are songs that were non-album singles. So they were songs that either weren't on albums or they were released after the album was released. And there was something, the Beatles didn't like to do that in terms of releasing music after from an album after it was released. And this is the newest. This is what, 2019, I think, 2009. So this is a 2009 version of this. This pressing is 2012, I think, at least. But yeah, so this is some good music. There's some Beatles music on here that you can't get on any of the albums. And this is really neat too. It's a gatefold. So if I open it up, look at that awesome picture in there. Really cool. It's a glossy. So I'm holding it at an angle because it's so reflective. I want to make sure you guys can see it, but super cool. This is a 2-disc set. This album was available previously on CD and maybe tape as well, probably tape. But it's a 2-disc set on this release. And this is on the Parlophone label. So as you can see there, a lot of tracks per side. There's a lot of music on these, on that beautiful Parlophone label. Very thick pressing. Feels like 180 grams or maybe 160. Sharp edges. Good polish. Just a quality pressing. They sound immaculate. You put these on, and if they're clean on a good turntable, you'll swear you're listening to like high-res streaming or a CD because it just sounds like perfection. So my wife got this set for me last year, I think for Father's Day, when I was building out the Beatles collection, which was the rabbit hole of 2023 for me. And man, was that fun. I ended up getting everything. I got all the UK albums and on either CD or vinyl. I didn't duplicate everything. I have a couple things on a couple different formats, but between vinyl and CD, I have everything, which I'm super thankful for. But Past Masters is a great one. It's considered part of the canon of original albums. If you're collecting Beatles, you have to have the Past Masters in order to have everything that they recorded for the label. So there's a song on here you're not going to find on any other album, like You Know My Name, Look Up the Number. If you haven't heard the Beatles sing that, that's your homework for today. You know my name, look up the number. That's the name of the song. There's also German language versions of some of the early stuff. And it's a weird song, but it's really good. I really, really like it. So Paperback Writer wasn't on an album. Interesting. So I guess maybe you have to have the red and blue compilations. I still have my red and blue box set. Well, of course I still have it. It's not like I'm not going to have it. It's still down in the same place that it was. I don't know where to put it. I would like to be able to display it. It's such a beautiful record. Yeah, Greg, welcome in. So glad you're here. That being said, we have reached the end. That's all I had planned. I still need to edit the show for this weekend. It's going to be a good one. It's a record player review. If you missed it earlier, you can watch the replay. I discussed some of the details about that show. But it was fun to film. Also, I was thinking about making a dedicated video about this, and I'm probably not, but I wanted to bring it up to those that care. I feel the people that are on the lives or watch the live replays would care more than the average person. This is a little bit of behind the scenes. So if you know the history of the channel, you know that it was sort of by design that the show was quantity over quality in terms of production value. I come from a television and film background, but I've forced myself to make this a kind of just, off the cuff, informal video series. Because at the time, I didn't have the flexibility to do a lot of editing at home. I was on the road a lot because we were taking care of a relative that was ailing. And so I spent a lot of time in waiting rooms and things, and I wanted to be able to shoot and edit on my phone. And so because of that, the bulk, almost everything that this channel has produced has been filmed on a phone, edited on a phone, and uploaded from a phone. And that goes for the video, the thumbnail, the voiceover, everything. With some exceptions, we've used SLRs for things. The first few product reviews I did, I pulled out the SLR and took the time to film on that. Since late last year when we did Vlogmas, we made the leap to digital mirrorless SL, not as SL, it's not an SLR, a mirrorless camera, Sony mirrorless. I forget what model it is, but it's the mirrorless Sony camera. which greatly increased the picture quality. Now, the original intent with that was to still import the footage using jump drives and things into the iPhones for editing and uploading, et cetera, et cetera. That part right there has proven to be a nightmare because the phones run out of memory, even though we're only shooting in 1080p, not doing any 4K. It did the 4K experiment a few years ago, decided to give it up. Most people weren't experiencing 4K anyway. But anyway, decided to try to import all that footage. And it was an incredibly arduous, glitchy process. Many nights. In fact, every night there was a video posted. Would mean hours and hours and hours of rendering, and the rendering failing because there's no storage, and deleting things so you can make room for it, and you still don't have room, and all of this stuff. So the convenience kind of went by the wayside, and now I work from home and I don't have the need and the necessity to always be doing it on the road. Said to myself, why am I doing this still in a mobile way? Why am I using the phone for everything when I can just be doing it at the computer? So I have spent the last couple of weeks trying to make the switch back over. Did a show. In fact, what show was it? A recent show we did was pretty much done that way, completely on the computer and the camera without any involvement of the phone. And it worked pretty good. I'm still playing with the render file, the output file for the best compatibility. I didn't quite like the frame rate of the way it was set and the format. So I'm still tweaking with that. YouTube takes thousands of video codecs before it converts it to their own internal streaming format. And in terms of which one works better than another, it just takes some explaining, or takes some experimenting. So I need to play with that some more. Still work in progress. Today's show that I'm going to hopefully get edited and posted is completely non-phone related. Hasn't been shot on a phone, hasn't been edited on a phone. The thumbnail will be on the phone because that's where that app is. But everything else is going to be on the computer and was shot on the standalone camera. So what does that mean for you? Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it. What does that mean for you? It means better picture quality, and it means just a better overall production value. And what it means for me is I don't have to deal with storage space because I have terabytes of storage to deal with now instead of gigs. I remember when a gig was so much. Do you remember that? I remember we had this NEC computer with a 1 gig hard drive. I thought I was sitting on this Cray supercomputer. Most people don't remember what a Cray supercomputer was. In fact, the 1 gig was probably better than the Cray supercomputer. Anyway, I thought I had this huge memory and storage on that thing, and it was a gig. And now they have thumb drives with a terabyte. Can you believe that? A thumb drive with a terabyte. 2 terabytes even. I've seen 2 terabyte thumb drives, and they're no bigger than the old ones. I made this cool little thing, this little 3D printed thing to hold on my memory cards. And all those thumb drives are like 16 megs, 32 megs, a gig. No, not megs, gigs. Okay, 16 gigs, 2 gigs, 1 gig. This is cool too. Have you seen this before? I think I got this with a 3D printer. It's a SD card to USB adapter. So you put an SD card, like a nano micro SD card, and then it turns it into a thumb drive, which is really, really cool. And then obviously the SD cards and the micro SD cards. So the idea of a terabyte on a thumb drive for not that much money is appealing to me. Anyway, so I've got the ability to, I've got the time to, so I decided to make that leap. It should make for a better quality production. That's a good idea. Jeremy Pataki has 40 terabytes in his PC, and I need another 40. And see, if I made the switch, I've got a problem with 4K. And here's the problem. I got multiple cameras that'll shoot 4K. But the problem is the computing power needed to edit that is beyond what I currently have. And I've got decent computing. Like I've got computers with i7 core i7 processors, quad core, 16 gigs of RAM, and all this stuff, decent graphics cards. But you start dealing with 4K video, or even more so 8K, and you're going to bog your life down, and you're going to eat up storage like a crazy person. I would like to get to that place. The problem is with YouTube. Sorry, we're going on this technical tangent, but this is the backbone to Record-ology. Is that they throttle it to the bandwidth that the person has. Old Radios has 32 gigs of RAM. So, okay, 16 gigs is not even that impressive anymore. So I need to upgrade. I have been thinking about getting a new computer. I have this tendency to pick the worst computers. I have the worst computer luck in terms of picking one that I think would be good, because I know the core specs that I need, but I haven't gone with the AMD processors because I've heard they don't perform as good as the Intel. But still, I've been, I'll be there in the store and I'll be looking at a quad core processor, and the salesperson will be like, "No, this is a dual core, but it's going to be better for what you're trying to do." I'm like, "How could it be better if it's dual core and I want a quad core?" So my limited knowledge of computers has kind of gotten me in trouble. That being said, I feel that storage and computing power is the choke point on 4K. So I haven't made that full-time leap. When I got the iPhone 12, this is still my personal iPhone. This is what Record-ology was filmed and edited on for like the last 3 years or so. It has 4K capability. So I was like, great, we're going 4K. I'm not realizing how that was going to chew through memory. And this is only a 64 gig, which, you know how it is. 50% is eaten up by the OS. Didn't realize what I was getting into, and the fact that people couldn't tell a difference because they, a lot of times you have to manually flip the switch in YouTube if you're watching to 4K, and et cetera, et cetera. So, Greg, welcome in, my friend. Yes, Miss Record-ology is doing great. I'll tell her hi from you, Greg. Thank you so much. My friends, every one of you, thank you so much. Wyatt says, did you get Polar Express on vinyl? I did not, but you'll be the first one to know as soon as I did. I want to. I'm going to have to come across it at some point. I've got it on CD. I love that album. And yes, I would listen to it here in March, May, June, whenever, year round. Absolutely. There's going to be more Record-ology coming your way today, hopefully. Stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much. Happy record hunting, and we will see you next time.